Thank you everyone for joining with us, and we welcome to our first training session of the Kickstart Scheme organized by Arjun Global. It really gives us immense pleasure to announce that we are running a series of training sessions for the young Kickstarters and young professionals, which will help developing and strengthening their skill sets. And the sessions are going to start from today. It's going to be once in every 2 weeks for the next 6 months, covering various topics. So before we move on to the session, I would like to give you all a brief introduction about Arjun Global, about what we do. So Arjun Global Arjun Global provides a bespoke recruitment and freelance hiring service for the top 3% of highly skilled talent. We deliver an on-demand workforce of consultants, developers, graphic designers, financial market analysts, and other professional services to startups and leading companies. I'm unable to change my slide. Sorry about that. So we have focused on building a talent pool of highly educated, experienced people who have worked at leading companies like Amazon, Google, Uber, Deliveroo, HP, and many more that contract with our clients through us. We have achieved quite a lot of success placing Indian talent in multinational companies into roles in the UK and US, as there is a significant cost differential between local and international staff at leading companies. We have a staffing team of 1,500 plus professionals on our books and are looking to work with companies to help provide highly skilled people for their projects. Our network consists of professional consultants assisting firms in a wide range of areas like financial consulting, accountancy, designers, developers, technology consultants, project managers, and many more. As a registered gateway provider to the Kickstart scheme, we have completed more than 300 applications over the last 8 months to give a chance of employment to young people who are on universal credit. The series of sessions which we are going to run will give the candidates an edge in areas such as problem solving, communication, cognitive flexibility, and many other more areas to gain better self-knowledge and emotional intelligence in the workplace. We have taken this initiative to boost the confidence of the young Kickstarters, young professionals, by offering these in-depth sessions led by knowledgeable business leaders and industry experts. Our guest speaker for today is Nick Patel, who is the CEO of OnPoint B2B Limited, and he would give us insights on how to win at sales. Nick has had a long and successful career in sales and will offer insights and tools into how we can best achieve success in sales and business development. From a personal perspective, I have been working with Nick over the last 3-4 months and have witnessed firsthand his unique ability of persevering, reaching out to potential talent, onboarding people, and the way he operates is a clear sign of achieving success. And I think it's a great opportunity for all of us who are on the call today to learn from his experience, his insights, and some of his thoughts around how to achieve success and how to become better at building relationships and generating sales. So without any further delay, over to you, Nick, and we all are looking forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Manisha. And thank you to Arjun Global, Godamic, for giving me this opportunity. So just to give you a bit of my background, I started out in sales, and it was business to business sales, face to face or over the phone. Back in 1998, I had no experience whatsoever, and I worked for an IT reseller, basically selling on to end users, peripherals, and back then approached me directly and asked me to go and work for them, and they were an IT distributor. So I went to work for them in a new business development capacity, and I think back then that's when new business development was really back then. I was selling memory cards, which go in your digital cameras, or back then smartphones, or memory chips, random access memory, which goes into your PCs and your laptops. But I was doing new business back then for a company in London, and just a bit of background, sort of businesses or deals I won. I bought on Hewlett Packard as one of their main distributors, Canon cameras. And I don't know, maybe I'm showing my age here, but the very first smartphone that was released in the early 2000s was released by Orange, and it was called the Orange SPV handset. And what we did, we brokered a deal here in the UK with Carphone Warehouse, because they were launching this product. We basically worked in collaboration with them and supplied the memory cards preloaded with the Robbie Williams album at the time, which was due to be released, because smartphones was a new concept back then. You know, back in those days on your phones, you could play snakes or this or that, but all of a sudden you had a digital device where you could watch videos and things like that. I bought on Orange mobile phones back then. I think Orange are now part of the EE network, but we preloaded video clips of movies, the top 4 movies in that year, Shrek, Spider-Man, and a couple of others. But yeah, so my background is new business development. And basically in sales, you have 2 types. You have account management, which do the day-to-day farming, so to speak, of looking after your existing clients. And then you have your new business development team who are proactively going out there on a day-to-day basis and hunting or prospecting for new customers. For my last 13 years, I've been in the telematics industry, and it's a big thing in India at the moment, vehicle tracking, GPS tracking. And I've worked for 2 of the largest companies. One of them was formerly known as Fleetmatics, now is known as Verizon, which is an American-based company. They've got a development team over in Bangalore themselves. And then I got headhunted by my old directors to go and head up the sales team for Movalytics, who've been trading for about 5 years. But that's my background, just to give you a bit of an insight. You know, sales, especially business to business sales, anyone can do it. That's what I'll say at this stage. Anyone can do it. And all you need is belief and confidence in yourself and your own ability, whoever it is. Passion, which is normal for any job you're doing, otherwise you wouldn't be doing that job. Drive and determination, the will to succeed. Basically, you know, for me, what made me successful in my career is the fact that I always tend to work when my competition are sleeping, because that's when I can jump on new opportunities. You know, when I was at Fleetmatics, I think I started there in 2011. I was there for just under 7 years. I won over 30 awards for sales performance, target achievement. I ended up building and training sales teams, not only in the UK, but Spain, France, Ireland, Italy, and even as far as America, you know. And then basically I was given the responsibility of managing these teams. And it's all, you know, again, the reason I was successful is just passion and belief, you know. And that's the key thing here. We've done this Kickstarter scheme, and I got involved with the founder of Arjun Global, Go Dharmic or Arjun Global. I got involved with him, and you know, it's best to say, and I think this is what Manisha refers to, is at the very start, we had some challenges, but it was not Go Dharmic situation. It wasn't my situation. It was just the way the process was working. So that's where, again, being proactive, and that's one key trait to being successful in sales. I proactively went out there and found my own contacts within DWP, because we were receiving a lot of referrals, but no applications, you know. I found my own contacts within DWP, which I'm still in contact with on a daily basis now. And basically by working in collaboration with them, what I was able to do, and maybe this is through my own initiative or perseverance, but I was able to set up weekly groups interview calls. So, you know, every week I'd have about 20, 30 people who were potentially interested in the role. And the way I proposition that is because I know what I do, I know what my client does, but when we're relying on a third party to try and sell our services for us, it's very hard for them to explain the features and benefits as effectively as I could. So by setting up these weekly group interview calls, I think within 2 weeks of setting up the first one, I'd recruited my first 3 applicants for this Kickstart scheme. I've now got 6 working for this one client. I've got a couple of applications out there with Manisha at the moment for my own consultancy and somebody else. But it's just all about being proactive. And I guess the one thing I'll say is to anyone that's listening in sales, especially, don't sit there and wait for something to happen. If you want it, go out there and get it. Find a way to do it. You know, whether it's in your personal life or a professional capacity, everyone faces challenges on a day-to-day business. And, you know, I'm not proud, I'm humble. I can say COVID impacted me for the first time in my 23-year career. For the last year, I actually found myself redundant for the first time, you know, which was a shock to the system for me personally. So that's when I went out and set up my own consultancy On Point B2B Limited. And that's how I got started working with GoDarmic / Arjun Global. So again, you know, and it's anything in life, it's all about the law of attraction, and the same thing applies to sales and any other role you're going to do. If you really want something, go out there and get it. And like I said, you know, the main trait to any successful person, not just in sales, but any role or any business capacity, is have that belief and confidence in yourself. You know, the most satisfying thing for me doing this Kickstart scheme is I got to go back to work in my hometown where I was born and I grew up for my early years. But, you know, it was more importantly, it was about being able to give other people the opportunity, which they for my sales teams. I've recruited a Spanish girl that used to be a hotel receptionist. And when I approached her about working for me on my B2B sales team for Spain, when I was managing a team in Spain, she didn't want to do it because she'd never done it before. But again, giving her that belief and confidence, she went on to become one of my top performers for that Spanish team. Same again here in the UK. I recruited a girl, I think it was back in 2014, who used to be an estate agent. But because she had that drive, and I could see that something in her, I convinced her to come and work for me. And she turned out to be one of my top performers. If you're all on LinkedIn, feel free to check my LinkedIn, because you'll see the recommendations people have written for me. And these 2 girls I've mentioned have written recommendations for me. And they clearly state they've never done anything like this before, but by working with me coaching them and mentoring them, they have been able to, you know, flourish in their own respective careers. Going back to this Kickstart scheme, I think one individual had only retail experience. Another candidate had never done a job in his life. The third individual, never done any sales experience, retail or business to business. And then I've got 2 girls. One's never done a job. The other ones only worked in a gym. And then the sixth person, had been flourishing through retail positions, so to speak. But again, Manisha is going to share with you guys in a second a testimonial and a couple of pictures, videos. But again, what makes a successful salesperson? It's the same as any role you do, whether it's you're working in finance, you're working in IT, or you're working in construction, property development. It's all about having that belief and confidence in your own ability. Like I said, I used to be working 10 o'clock at night, 5 o'clock in the morning when my competitors were asleep. And I'll go on to that in a second, but it's all about basically being creative, thinking outside of the box and jumping on opportunities when you know your competition isn't aware of it. So I'll go on to it a bit more in a second about the tills and few skills and tips, etc. But Manisha, if you'd like to share those few slides with the team.
Sure, Nick. So we have a few words from the Kickstarters who have been, uh, appointed through this Kickstart scheme, and they have, spoken about the experience and, what they have gained through this. So let me know once you can see my screen. So he is one of the telesales executive who has been appointed through the Kickstart scheme, and he's, written here about his experience and, about what he really wants to do through the scheme. So I'll leave for you guys to read it, and then I'll move on to the next slide. So it's written amazingly that, he's become a better communicator and listener, and he's learned many new skills which he never knew existed. And we all are in that learning phase. I mean, especially for young starters and young professionals, just at the start of the career, they have a lot to learn. Even for us, I mean, the learning never stops. So let me move on. Can you see my screen?
No, but we could.
So let's hear what he has to say.
Hello, my name is Jamal. I started the Kickstart scheme a few months ago, around about March time. Before I started it, I didn't have much knowledge of the what I needed for the job I was going into. As you are with any job, I came into it quite nervous, not really knowing a lot of what to expect. But now, but in the first 2 weeks, we went through a lot of training that covered basically everything we'd need for the job, and I think that was very beneficial because, like I said, at the start of the scheme, at the start of the job, I didn't have a lot of confidence. I didn't have a lot of understanding of what I was doing. But with the training, I think it built up my confidence, and now that I'm actually doing the job, because of that, I have a lot of I have a lot of confidence. I built up, which I built up from the training and from just as time went on doing the job. And I'm starting to see these results now because I've got a meeting booked in this Thursday. I've got another meeting booked in next Tuesday and another one coming up, which I still have to confirm the exact date for. So yeah, I'm starting to really see the results now because of as time has gone on, I've gotten used to the job and of course everything I've learned in training as well.
We have another one.
SCI UK has provided a platform for young people such as myself and my colleagues the opportunity to grow and build up a knowledge of the property sector in both commercial and residential. Opportunity to learn how to negotiate with architects and clients for projects, open-ended and closed-ended questions, knowing which ones to use to get the best information possible for yourself. I think the most important thing about this opportunity has been the chance to really see myself grow, and in such a short space of time as well. It's been a pleasure to watch my colleagues grow as well. and to see us all going from training and being a little bit unsure about the role and what exactly we'd be doing into on the cusp of securing a deal. I would never have thought I would be able to do that a couple of months ago. The training was great and thorough. It really did help to demystify the concept of telemarketing and helped to ensure that we knew what we were talking about on the phone, and also the techniques and ways that we can go about the deep end. But the training itself was great at building confidence for us as people new to the role, and it really did help to demystify telemarketing.
Perfect. Thank you, Manisha. So just on that, just to break it up a bit, does anyone have any questions at this stage? No? Okay, so just moving on then, and Manisha, thank you for doing that. You mentioned something there when you read the testimonial about how you guys are new to this or in the very early stages, and learning never stops. You're so right, you hit the nail on the head. I've been in sales for 23 years. And guess what? I've taken on a couple of new contracts recently through my own consultancy, working in industries I've never worked in before. So I'm still learning. So whilst I might be able to sit here and say to you, I've won over 30 awards, I've won trips away, all expenses, trips away for myself and my wife to Santa Barbara. I used to go to Miami yes, I was good, I was great, but I'm still learning. So that's the one thing, you will never become the best at what you do unless you continue to learn, and it's in any industry. So I think the key message there is for everyone: never rest on your laurels. There's always someone out there who knows a bit more than you, or who's a bit better at doing a task in hand than you are, but that's not a bad thing. Use that. Now moving on, in terms of tips and skills, I guess it's just
a question that I have. What's the most courageous thing that you've done so far, where you actually feel proud about that? This is where my sales expertise has come into place, and you would want to highlight some incident that happened, where that's unforgettable for you.
Okay, well, I've got quite a few,
Okay.
but I'll give you a couple. The first one, and I was working for the same company on both examples, but on the first one, I was selling GPS tracking, and I picked up the phone to speak to a prospect, or a lead, whatever term you want to refer to. And they basically told me they were signing a deal with my competitor that day, later on in the afternoon. And because, part of doing any role, any job and function, you need to know your competition, what's your features and benefits or USPs against the competition. So, I just got that conversation flowing, asked them who they were speaking to or who they were signing with. And as soon as I found out, I knew where our strengths would override the competition's weaknesses. So basically, what happened, I picked up the phone, it was in the morning, the client told me they were signing a deal for 45 tracking units with a competitor. Once I found out who that competition was, I basically convinced them to not sign that deal and give me a chance to go in and demonstrate our software, because back then, you know, Teams and Zoom, that was all in the early stages. So back then, going back 2012, I think, we had to go face to face, you know, to see people in their premises. But basically, by giving him to give me that opportunity, I was able to go in with, or in fact, I sent my sales director, who's actually one of my mentors, managed to convince him to drive. I think it was a 4-hour round trip, which he wasn't happy about. But I convinced him as well, if he goes in, because I know how good he is, he'll get that deal. And basically, the competition thought they were going there in the afternoon to sign the contract. But we got in there, took that deal, and they called the competition while we were there, so don't bother coming. And then there was another instance where I'm a very heavy user of LinkedIn. And over the years, being in sales, certain roles, every salesperson has KPIs or targets. And KPIs will be, you need to hit a certain amount of calls every day. You have to achieve a certain level of talk time every day. But because I basically used to use LinkedIn when no one knew about it. And even though I had the same KPIs as my team members, summertime is generally the quiet, you know, period, because everyone's kids are on summer holidays, parents take holidays to look after the kids, or they're going away on family holidays. But it was in August, and I started a conversation with a company director on LinkedIn who had, I think, 160 vehicles. And in 2 weeks, in a 2-week period, without going to see this customer or without even convincing him to have a look at our software, just by talking to him on LinkedIn and explaining the features and benefits of using my solution and my company, I took that deal off his competition. So again, you know, I guess what it all comes down to, whatever I've done, I've always had confidence in my own ability. You know, again, without sounding pig-headed, I'm good at what I do, and I know I am, you know, and I have that confidence in my own ability. I have that belief. So, you know, like I said, I've gone into different industries throughout my career. I've taken on contracts for different industries, but it doesn't daunt me or, you know, scare me. I know I can do it. And the reason why is because I have that belief and confidence. And that's what, from the video clip, the Kickstarters, that's what I've given them, you know. So anyone can do anything. You know, I've won big deals for the likes of Hewlett-Packard, you know, Orange mobile phones, Canon cameras. And back then, no one was doing that, you know, but there was me and one other colleague who I also class as a mentor, Pete Wood. You know, we went into an unknown field and we spurred each other on. We had that morale, that, you know, team work ethic, supporting each other. And that's important in the sales role, like it is any other role. But, you know, does that cover your question? Answer your question?
I mean, yes. However, I just wanted to also understand that how often do you need to actually leave your egos behind to basically, you know, support your coworkers to win, you know, the sales? I mean, do you want to talk about some incidents of such sort?
Sorry?
Do you want to talk about some incidents of such sort where you have to leave your egos behind and support your coworkers to basically win the sales, or maybe, you know, which is beneficial for the organization?
100%. And, you know, especially in sales, the general perception of salespeople is crap, sorry, excuse my language, and, you know, they think too highly of themselves, right? But when you move into a leadership capacity, especially in the sales function, no matter how good you are as a salesperson or a leader, as a leader, you're only as good as your team and their results. So there's been some example, you know, so for me, I've always left my ego behind, because when I moved from a sales function where I was doing sales day in, day out to a leadership function, for me, the satisfaction came from seeing my team perform. And that's where, again, people like these Kickstarters or the two girls I mentioned, is taking the raw talent and turning it into something special. You know, there's been instances where I've had to jump on calls just to support my sales team because they didn't feel confident enough, or they couldn't handle certain objections. And to me, at the end of the day, I wasn't worried about that. I still have that belief and confidence in them, but it's just a particular objection they couldn't handle, you know, and I've jumped on it, started speaking to the prospect for them, and we've taken the deal. We've won the deal, you know. So, and I didn't get recognized for it. I didn't earn any money, bonus or commission for it. But to see that particular individual win that deal and have that smile on his or her face, that's what made me happy, you know. And I guess that's why I moved into the role of doing consultancy work later on in my career, and building teams, training teams, leading teams, because for me now, I get more satisfaction and pleasure of seeing other people succeed. And to be honest with you, if anyone asked me, if you gave me 3 people with sales experience or 3 people with no sales experience, I'd rather take the 3 people with no sales experience, because I want to be able to give them that platform, that opportunity to go out there, make their own career and succeed, you know. And that's why I got involved with the Kickstart scheme in the first instance, you know, because like I said, you had people here in the UK that had never had a job, they were on benefits, and it's like, you know, look, there's a vision here. You've got the chance to go out there and create something for yourself in terms of your future. Where you want to go, what you want to do, it's up to you, but I will support and guide you. You know, sales isn't for everyone. You know, the one thing I'll say about sales, you've got to be thick-skinned, because you're going to get a lot of rejection. You're going to get people swearing at you, telling you to go away and this, that, and the other. But you've got to be thick-skinned. And through being thick-skinned, if you can map out your own plan of attack or plan of strategy, you know, and what I mean by that is some people, in my career, I've noticed they call the same person at the same time every day and they get the same answer back. So the first thing I would say is, well, why not call them at a different time of day? You know, why not use a different approach? You know, and this is where tools like LinkedIn are very useful. The 3 main tools. Sorry, does that answer your question?
Yeah.
So
fair enough.
So just moving on from that, then the 3 tools I find useful in a sales capacity: LinkedIn, because you have access to everyone now. If there's people on this call that are doing sales, telesales, telemarketing, they'll be able to relate to what I'm saying here, where you can call a company to ask to speak to someone and you'll never get through to them, because they're at lunch, they're in a meeting, or he's on a call, we'll take a message, etc., etc. LinkedIn gives you that direct line of communication with your decision maker. Yeah. And also what's useful with LinkedIn is another tool called Lusha. And what Lusha does, Lusha, it's an add-on extension. Once you've added it on, if you go to LinkedIn If that, and you check somebody's profile, if that person's contact details are available, and by that I mean landline, direct dial, mobile number, and direct email address, Lusher will display that for you. So again, it's about being smart, working smarter, not harder. You know, if you use the tools at your disposal, it goes back to what I was saying. I used to have the lowest call stats, but that's because I used everything else a lot more effectively than the rest of my team. You know, so Lusher will give you those contact details. So, you know, here in the UK, sometimes you call to speak to someone, they're not available, they're in a meeting. Can I have their email address? No, sorry, we can't give that out. Send it to the generic info address. Whereas if it's available on LinkedIn, Lusher will give you their personal contact details. You know, and another tool I use here, and it's an add-on from the HubSpot CRM, it's called Sidekick. And what that allows you to do is track the emails. And not only allows you to see how many times a particular email you've sent to someone has been opened, it also allows you to see if they forwarded it on, if there was a link in the email, has that link been clicked? Because how many times, you know, I've had it in my own, I've called people, I know they've seen the email, they've read it, but when you ask them, oh no, I haven't had a chance. Now you can't tell someone, I know you're lying.
Yeah.
At least you know, okay, this person's opened this email 17, 18 times. If they've opened it that many times, they're obviously interested. You know, maybe it's just not the right time for them to discuss it, you know. So, you know, these little tools, and also, like I said, working out of hours. Sales is a very cutthroat industry. It always has been. You know, here in the UK, we have a lot of our competitors bad mouthing us, which isn't good business practice, but that's how they want to run their business, so they carry on. So again, you know, by working creatively, working outside of normal business working hours, it does give you a head start. And, you know, the one thing I'd like to say here at this stage is, in my career, I've had 3 mentors, and they have been crucial and pivotal to the success I've had throughout my career. Taught me and put it into my own practices, hence why I'm, you know, I love helping other people. The first one I'd like to mention is Carl Davey. Carl Davey was very laid back, and I joined, he was the sales manager in my second ever job. I was there for 5 years. That's where I sold memory cards, and I just got married then. Sorry, Sergio. Just got married then, and I hadn't bought any deals in. And, you know, so I was scared because I just bought a house as well. You know, so I had this commitment to pay my mortgage, look after my wife. We had our first child on the way as well. So I went into the office one day, I pulled Carl into the boardroom. I was, Carl, I'm scared, I'm worried. And, you know, what he taught me is just believe in yourself, have confidence. You're doing all the right things. As long as you keep doing the right things, putting the effort in, the results will come. You know, they say sales is a numbers game. I would say any industry or profession is a numbers game. It's all about putting that effort in. You know, if you're not putting the effort in, then when the results don't come, you've only got yourself to blame. You know, it's just believe in yourself. And then I had Pete Wood in the same company. Pete Wood is now a senior vice president for Sony Digital over in Hollywood. But he was very important to me in the early stages of my career because, again, he never had sales experience. He came from a retail background, and I think I joined 2 or 3 months after he did. But, you know, he had that passion. He had that drive, the determination, the will to succeed, and he's still got it today. You know, we're very close friends. We're still in contact with each other 22 years after we first met, you know, but I class him as a mentor because he's the one that really showed me about having that passion, drive, determination. You know, as long as you put in the effort in, which Carl told me, have belief and confidence. Pete told me the next step, you know, which I still share with people I'm training or when I'm recruiting. And then the last mentor, again, another close personal friend of the family. He's been with us for 12 years. His name's Graham Corner. He just gave me that confidence. You know, doesn't matter if you're going up someone who's selling something that's £4 or £5 cheaper than what you're offering. As long as you have that belief and confidence in your product, in its features, in its functionalities, you're good at what you do. Just go and do it. Don't be scared, you know? So those three mentors that I've mentioned, they've been very crucial to my career and the success I've had in my career and what I've achieved. You know, but like I said, I have bad days. There's days where I don't get the results I'm expecting to get. But as long as I've put the effort in, and this goes again to any job you're doing, as long as you put the effort in, the results will come. You know, and my wife, bless her, she's the one that taught me about the law of attraction. You know, wake up in the morning, say to yourself what you want or what you want to achieve. And as long as you've done everything to try and get those results, whether or not you get those results, as long as you've done everything you should, at least you can say you've tried, you know? And I think that's where, especially in today's current climate, a lot of people, if I'm honest, don't give 100%. A lot of people actually expect things to come to them, you know?
Hi, Nick. It's
Hi.
Maulik.
Hi, Maulik.
Can you talk about some skills that are, you know, which are necessary to be successful in sales? I mean, some skills, which,
yeah,
because
the most important skill, I would say, and if you're doing sales over the phone, well, in fact, if you're doing sales face-to-face or over the phone, the most important skill I would say anyone needs is to be able to listen. Yeah, we got this and we got two of these. Use them in that order, 2 and then 1. Because when you're talking to somebody over the phone, if you're doing more of this and talking and not listening, you'll tend to miss out on buying signals, you know? And what I mean by that is, if you're sitting in front of someone face to face, you know, I can read your body language. So you might not tell me you're interested, but if your body language tells me otherwise, then I know you are. And you're just trying to play a hard negotiation game with me. But when you're on the phone, you can't see the person you're speaking to. And that's why it's important to listen, you know, because they'll tell you key traits, well, key, you know, they'll give you key bits of information. But if you're not listening, you'll miss it. And that's what a buying signal is, you know. And also the other thing I found useful in my career is account mapping. And what account mapping is, when you go in to talk to a company, if let's say, for example, you're selling a product, if you go in to talk to somebody who you think in that business is going to use your product or benefit from that product, they're not the only person. There might be other people in a finance function or a HR function or an operations function or a service function. So the key about account mapping is to build up as many key sponsors or stakeholders, yeah? Because you're not always going to get to speak with the direct decision maker. You know, if you think about it, if there's a company that has 500, 1,000 employees, you're not going to get to speak to that director or the owner of the business all the time. So this is where then you need to build up key sponsors or stakeholders, because when you get that opportunity to speak to the decision maker, you've already got 5, 6, 7 of his or her employees, which he pays their salary for, who will also do half of your job for you, you know?
Yeah.
But say, yeah, listening, definitely most important thing, especially when you're doing it over the phone, because you can't read somebody's body language. And again, you know, negotiation, yes, can be complex or daunting to most people. But again, it goes back to what I said. If you have belief and confidence in your own ability, negotiation is nothing. You'll be able to do that, you know. But also doing your research, you need to know who you're calling. Is the product a right fit, or the service you're offering a right fit? It might not work in a certain department, but it might only be specific to a particular department. And if that's the case, you want to make sure you're speaking to the right people. You know, for example, when I was selling, you know, memory cards, there's no point me talking to someone in operations. They're not going to use it, you know. So I want to make sure, and again, this is where LinkedIn is very handy, because sometimes company websites won't tell you who the relevant point of contact you want to speak to, who that person is, you know. But LinkedIn will be able to give you that information. This person, this is their position, so you know beforehand. But also, when I say research, you also want to know what your weak points and your strong points are against your competition, you know, because chances are they may already be using the product or service you're offering, but they're using it through somebody else. So you need to be able to identify that before you pick up the call. Where do we stand in comparison to, you know, X, Y, and Z, our competitors? You know, and again, I go back to vehicle tracking, GPS tracking. A lot of the companies here used to offer 90-second refresh rates. So on the map, your vehicle would only move every 90 seconds. You know, whereas my last company, Movalytics, their system updates every 30 seconds. So as soon as when I started speaking to someone and I found out who they were currently using or who they were in negotiations with, I knew, right, this is where we're better than them, so let me focus on that. You know, because at the end of the day, the one key thing, and for me personally in my career, but I think this applies to everyone, for me personally, it's always been about working with integrity. I will never badmouth the competition. I will never badmouth their product or their service. I'll just focus on why we're better. You know, and that's actually helped me in quite a lot of respect, because people I've built up through my LinkedIn network over, you know, my career, they follow me. So when I was selling vehicle tracking, they bought vehicle tracking off me. I then went to work for a company where we were doing mobile workforce management software. Some of those customers followed me there. I'm now involved with a company that offer camera telematics, dash cams and things like that. And some of my existing network have followed me there as well. So it's all about building your own brand, reputation, and doing it with integrity. Because at the end of the day, you know, if you badmouth your competitor, it's not going to look good for you professionally. So that's why I'm saying, if you do your research, not only on your product or your service, but also on the competition, and then you're able to easily differentiate what makes you different to those companies that you're going to be up against on a day-to-day basis. And the things that make you different, those are your USPs, your unique selling points. And that's what you want to focus on. Talk the story about that. You know, also something which is very good in sales is being able to sell by social proof. Social proof being having case studies or testimonials of companies you've already worked with who are pleased with the work you've done, and they're happy to talk about it or take videos about it, because once you've done that and you speak to another company who might be in a similar industry or field to them, it makes your job a lot easier. Because all I'd say is, Malik, don't listen to me, I'm a salesperson. Let me send you 3 or 4 videos or testimonials. These are companies you should know because they're in your industry. They work with us. Have a look at what they're saying about the experience of dealing with us. And I'll tell you why I say that, and I'll put it to a personal level, is because a few months, I think it was last year, we had these electric motorbikes or scooters that came out here. And one of my brother's friends went and bought a top of the range one. But at the time, because it was new here in the UK, the top of the range one he bought would only work through an app on your phone. So basically, he could go to a shop, he could leave it outside, and no one could ride it away because it needs to be controlled through the app, right? And there were cheaper ones out at that time. They were slower. They didn't have that security functionality. And then my brother went and bought the same one as his friend. And the reason why is because his friend was singing and dancing about the scooter he bought. So even though it cost £300 or £400 more than what else was available, because his friend had bought one and was saying how good it was, the security, the speed, the app, this, that, and the other, my brother went and bought the same one. And it's the same thing, chances are with you, Malik, if you bought something recently, you would have bought it because your friends gave it a glowing recommendation. Yeah, it's the same thing. So it's all a psychological thing. And that's what you need to do, just get in people's heads. But if you've got these case studies, these testimonials, it makes your job as a salesperson a lot more easier. And I refer back to what I mentioned earlier. Work smarter, not harder.
I think that's a really, I have been learning that since the start of my career till date, Nick, that you should always, work smart and not hard. Because if you work smart, your work will automatically get done in a more better way. You'll find new creative ideas to, get that done in less number of time. So I think, yeah, that really works. Okay, guys, we just have 3 minutes. Anybody else who would like to, I would give an opportunity to you guys to, ask questions. If you have any questions or anything. Yeah, yes.
Just want to ask the app name, which Nick mentioned. So what was the name of that app, Nick?
Sorry, which app?
The mail tracker, something related with that.
It's a sidekick and it's Lucia.
Lucia.
Lusha.
Okay, thank you.
They're both free, and you get a certain amount of credits every month. Obviously, if you want more credits, then obviously you have to, pay the premium for it. But again, just like LinkedIn, they're free. And, on those 3 tools I mentioned, if you use them effectively, and use them in the right way, you don't need to pay for the additional add-ons, going back to LinkedIn, when I was selling vehicle tracking, I used to find a lot of business on LinkedIn just by typing in the search bar, vehicle tracking recommendations. Because as you know, on LinkedIn, especially now, when people are looking for something or they want something, they'll go onto LinkedIn and ask for recommendations. So if you, when I used to type in vehicle tracking recommendations and then click the close tab, and all of a sudden you'll be able to see everyone in LinkedIn who's asking for recommendations for a vehicle tracking system. So that way I could approach them without my competition or, anyone on my sales team or anyone else being aware of it. And that's why, like I said to you earlier, I think it was, is it Amal? Sorry, yes. That's why I was saying to you earlier, I used to have the lowest amount of calls made on a daily basis, but I had the highest results.
Yeah, makes sense.
You know, so again, work smarter, not harder. Everyone's going to work hard, or at least try to work hard, but differentiate yourself, make yourself stand out, be creative, work smarter. You know, and that's why sometimes I'd be on LinkedIn at 5 o'clock in the morning or at 11 o'clock at night. I even do some work on the weekends. You know, last night I was here watching football. My wife was on the couch. She owns her own consultancy. She was on her laptop at 9:30 in the evening. You know, whereas most other people are most probably sat at home, you know, feet up, having a glass of wine or whatever, or just, you know, relaxing. But my wife was working. You know, it's all having that determination, that drive, you know, but again, have passion for what you do. You know, sales isn't for everyone, and that doesn't make them any better or worse than you. It's, you know, I mean, for me, I couldn't sit in a training session. I couldn't sit in a training session listening to someone talk to me for 3-4 days. I'm that type of individual. Just let me get on with it and I'll teach myself, you know? And people know their own strengths and weaknesses. But at the same point, as if you have that passion, that determination, and most importantly, the will to succeed, anyone can do anything, whether it's sales, you know, coding, etc., whatever it may be. But, you know, the two most important skills or traits I would say you need to have as an individual are belief and confidence in yourself. And that's in any job you do, you know, because there's a sales technique I use, it's called BAFA. It's But let me give you an example. When you wake up in the morning and you look out the window and it's raining, how does that make you feel? Anyone?
Excess of everything is bad. I mean, for a while it looks good.
But if you see it's raining, what do you think?
We feel pleasant. I mean, normal.
Miserable, right?
Yeah.
So because you feel that way or you believe that way, your actions reflect that. So therefore, you look out the window and you think, oh, it's miserable. I'm just going to stay inside.
Yeah.
So you feel lazy. So you actions, you do nothing. And your results, you get nothing done. Whereas I look at it the other way. I look out the window, I see it's raining, and I think, good, my lawn, my grass is getting watered. So now I can go and do something else to help that. You know, so it's all about your mindset. And that's what it is. It's about having the right attitude, you know? So whereas some people might look at it as a negative, find the positive in it.
Yeah.
Because that will determine your action, your feeling, your attitude, and your results.
Makes sense. Yeah. And what's the name that you referred to? BAFA? I didn't get that.
BAFA, BAFAR.
BAFA.
Do you work in sales, Amal?
Yeah, I work in sales. I do both. I do account management, sales, everything. Yeah.
Well, send me a LinkedIn request.
100%.
Yeah, we can talk on there, or anyone, feel free to send me a LinkedIn request. I'm happy to connect with everyone that's on this call. And then, yeah, you know, I can go into a bit more detail because there's a few more. There's spin, situation, implication, need, / payoff. I've created my own training modules using these techniques.
That would be great, Nick, if you maybe can share those modules or with us, and maybe I can share it with the audience. And I know we're running out of time, so I think we'll just take one last question. If we have anyone from the audience, otherwise we'll just end the session. Do we have any more questions?
Yeah, means we have some questions. Like you said about calling. I mean, I just want to know, like, from your experience, what you say that cold calling is like what chances are the I'll be able to close the client in from cold calling without any research or anything, like just blindly calling on that?
No, I would never do that. Never do
Never
that.
do that.
Never do that. Because you
So
need
research is the main thing we need to do before calling.
well, research. You need to make sure the company you're calling has a use for the product or service you're offering. But also you want to make sure when you're calling, you're speaking to the right people. And what I mean by that is throughout my career, especially when I've managed sales teams and I've done pipeline management and, you know, sales pipeline reviews, I've had some people who've had the same deal in their pipeline for 2 or 3 months, and it's always just been there. So when we start investigating, it turns out what they're doing is actually speaking to the wrong person. It's not a decision maker, it's not an influencer, and it's not even a sponsor. But this person believes, because of what they've been told by the person they're speaking to, that, you know, it is the right person. So again, use things like, but other than that, just ask the questions. What is the decision making process? Who's involved in the decision making process? Is there a budget for this? Has that budget been approved? Who's in charge of that budget? You know, I've worked with a lot of people throughout my career where they will just pick up the phone, they'll speak to someone, and because that person on the phone might not have anything to do with it, but will just tell that person what they think they want to hear, the salesperson puts the phone down and thinks, yeah, I've got a deal, I'm winning, you know. But I'm the same, you know, when people call me, if they're not asking me the right questions, I just hang up. But that's because I'm in sales, you know. And the thing here is, don't sell the product or the service. Gathering process, you know. But like I said, if you picked up the phone without doing any research and you just randomly called someone, you know, you might get lucky, you might get a deal, but from my experience, all that customer is going to do is just take you round and round and round and round and round and round, and that's all they're going to do. So, you know, research is key, preparation is key. Know who you're calling, why you're calling, and also what makes you different in terms of what are your USPs in comparison to your competition. Because when you call someone and they say, Malik, don't need it right now, we're using X, Y, and Z. If you've done your research, then you know where you're better than X, Y, and Z. So then you start talking about those things. And all of a sudden the customer's like, okay, well, no, ours does it this way, and that takes us this long, and we have to spend this much time or this much money doing it that way. But you're saying to me, you can do it like this, quickly, just like that. So, you know, if you know your USPs against your competition in any product, service, or solution that you're offering or selling, that's where you'll get your doors open for you. You know, because the thing is, if you do it the way, like you mentioned, there's 10 other people who are selling the same service that will do it the same way. So you'll all be put in that same bracket. What you want to do, stand out, differentiate yourself, and focus on your or your strong point against you.
Right. Thank you. Guys, if you have any other questions, you can, send them to me, and obviously you can connect to Nick as well on LinkedIn, or you can write them to me as well at, manisha@arjunglobal.com. And we'll obviously get back to you, within 24 hours, since we're running out of time. So yeah, if you have any sort of questions, you can just write into us. If you have any queries, doubts, clarifications, or anything, so please reach out to us and let us know. And I really thank you, Nick. I'm sure all of us we had a great learning today in terms of, and I'm sure that we are going to be definitely improving in sales, and it is going to show, like, since today onwards. So I have personally, I have learned a lot because I am not from a sales background, and I have got really good insights on what I was doing wrong and what I can do more correctly. But yeah, the learning never stops. We have a lot to learn. The session could go on for hours and hours, but we have a time limit over here. So, but yeah, I think it was a very interesting session, and I mean, all of us, I'm sure all of us, we've learned a lot of experiences. We've gained a lot of learning from you. So again, from all of us, on behalf of Arjun Global, we really thank you, Nick, for taking out time for this session, and giving all of the young professionals and all of us, sharing your experiences, your insights, and everything. We really thank you.
Well, thank you for having me. And like I said, if anyone, or like you said, Manisha, if anyone's got any questions, just reach out to Manisha. She'll come back to me, and I'll respond as quickly as I can.
Thank you all for joining with us, and let me know if you guys have any questions or any doubts, and we'll definitely get back to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank you
it.
so much, Nick.
Stay safe, everyone. Bye bye.
Yeah, cheers.
Appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.